Kia ora whānau. Before I start talking, can I get everybody please stand real quick? See all those beautiful faces out there. Now can I get everyone to get their right arm, throw it over their heart, and just breathe in for 2 breaths real quick. Kia ora tātou katoa. Please sit down. If you're wondering why I got you to do that little exercise, it's not only helping you, but it's helping me stand here and just reset. But also, if you don't take anything away from my kōrero tonight, you can just say, Peter's kōrero, left you here uplifted and your hearts were touched. So I'll get on with things real quick. Kia ora. Well, I guess my journey into Ao Hākina Kina began 14 years ago, this month on the 18th, 2010. I signed up to a kaupapa with my group of mates, and we were under a local legend of ours called KT, or Kevin Tamati. He was, you probably know him, ex-rugby league, Kiwis player, and famously known for having a famous biff on the field with Greg Dowling. It was Aussie for his Kiwi Tets match. Anyways, part of this event, I signed up to do the bike leg of it, and a few of my cousins did the run and the swim. And did a visual of that over there. To an event I initially signed up to, I was hoping to make it to the start line at the Iron Māori event, but unfortunately ended up in an accident and resulted in me looking more like a Iron Māori with a piece of iron in my leg. You can laugh, it's all good. That's how we navigate through these new situations. So the accident itself, I won't go too much into it, but I was lucky enough to, not lucky, but had my accident on a crossroads not far from my village that I'm from. And I was left bleeding out on the road, and I was lucky enough to have 2 nurses on their way home from Mahi, heading back into Hastings, and fortunately enough for me, they were there to basically close me up real quick, and I walked away from the accident, with my life, and pretty much grateful to those 2 wahine. To this day, I don't know their names, but they've helped me get here to this point. And navigating that situation as a 15-year-old boy, I was there for a 12-month period to make an important decision to keep my leg that was injured or amputate it. And these options were laid out on the table for me to choose that young. And after doing my research, and I guess having kōrero with people with prosthetic limbs, I was inspired by one man who answered a few questions for me. I only had 3 questions. One was, could I get a job? Could I get hobbies? And can I get a missus? And he answered all 3 of those questions for me, and he inspired me to pretty much give myself permission to live a good life and to carry on despite, a traumatic event. And I've taken that experience and worked it into everything I kind of picked up along the way. And one of those things was finding waka ama. And back there, these boys right here, close friends of mine, they're a bunch of brothers that helped me rehabilitate and heal in a journey that I thought was impossible in my life. And finding waka ama itself not only gave me the ability to move and feel normal again, but it helped me connect to Tai Ao, helped me connect with my identity as a Māori young boy. And to this day, they're a core reason of why I carry on and do these things to inspire our younger generation coming through. And never would I have expected to make it far in the sport and navigate through the unknown world of elite sport or high-performance sport. Fast forward to this year, 2024 in Paris, I was privileged enough to make it to the Paralympics, but to even make it to this stage in your career is quite difficult. Every year there's a pinnacle event where you compete, and you're basically just trying to make it into a certain, ranking to progress. And I was blessed enough to have a good team around me who I'd like to shout out to. They're not here. One member of that team is here, and that's my mum, wherever you are. My coach, Michael Nuku, and he's a local mentor of mine who's helped me progress through the sport. We're both based down in Hastings. We run our campaign out of Hastings, and I feel like it's real special that we can do that and go to the world stage and try and achieve these feats. And the last person is probably my wife. She's at home with our tamariki, so she's another person I want to shout out who's helped me navigate through this unknown world of sport. I guess to paint the picture of this experience going on back here, you can see all the boys are in the grind and we're trying to deal with the pressures of performing at a high level. And at this, I guess, level of sport, we've always kind of had to navigate through it, not knowing what was coming up next. There was never a blueprint for us to kind of read off, I guess, first and foremost, being a tangata whaikaha, but also being Māori. And we were, I guess, in the planning stages of our campaign, me and my coach were asked a question because we operate so well together, our relationship's so good that, you know, it looks pretty ideal from the outside. A person asked us, how do you guys incorporate te ao Māori in high performance? And me and my coach looked at each other like, I don't know, we just are Māori. You just are, you live that lifestyle. We grow up on the marae, we grow up in our rural areas, we, you know, practice tikanga Māori. We take these values with us into spaces that we move into. So we reframed that question and said, how do we incorporate high performance into te ao Māori? And that helped us kind of, that's what we do. And looking back at this experience, taking those key nuggets with us, I think it's really helped our campaigns. We plan, I guess, looking forward for a year block or 4 years. My coach will always ask me, oh, what's your whakatauki this time? What do you want to incorporate into this campaign? And kind of use those to kind of navigate and retract back to when I find myself kind of getting lost in the bright lights or lost in the journey. And it's always something that's kept us both recentered into our values together. Paris itself, as you can see, it's quite the pinnacle event for every Paralympian's career. And for us to enter into that environment of a training camp where there's little to none noise and being in front of a big crowd, it's quite, if I'm not gonna lie, it's quite a vulnerable space to be in, especially when you're in your own individual craft. I'm not used to the crowd being this close to me. They're normally like 200 meters away and I don't have to deal with them, but you guys are cool. But yeah, in this space, what's going through my mind on race day is trying to just be in every moment, trying to just be in all those spaces I'm in that time. I have affirmations I come to. I touch the water and it feels cold and it just brings me to, yeah, the water's cold. And I love tapping on my waka and saying, I'm right here and I'm right now. And that just stops me from jumping the gun, thinking about the podium, thinking about the outcome, even though it hasn't happened. And it allows me to sit in those feelings and stick to the race plan. And the race plan for us in Paris was to pretty much go as straight as possible and fast as possible, as you can see. But in the waka ama world, we have ideal conditions that we love racing in. And ideal conditions for me were to have a flat day, flat water, and it could have been anyone's race, but I don't know if you saw the footage, but it didn't do it justice. We were not only faced with unideal conditions, but we were faced with a lot of wind. And wind coming from the back of your canoe is great because it makes you look faster than you actually are when you're racing. And the wind coming from the front, it'll keep you in line, but it's just hard to work against. But the wind we had in this racing in our final was a crosswind, and that can do two things to your waka. If it hits your nose, you veer off to the left. And if it hits your tail, you veer off to the right. So for us, it was a matter of trying to stay straight and true to our race plan the whole time. And for me, that was pretty scary because I was like, shucks, I don't know if I can make it to the end straight enough. I might go crooked. And that's what we were all thinking about. But something that helped me stay in those moments and account for every meter and every stroke was coming back to, I'm right here, I'm right now. We've got our 200 meters on lock. I know where I should be in every meter, every breath and every stroke. And dealing with the crosswind is something hard, but as long as we stayed disciplined and true to it, we knew the right result would come. And incidentally, we ended up with a great result, being the bronze medal. And what I kind of take away from that experience is, before I get to that part, but what I've kind of taken away from that experience, the more I reflect on it, when we ask this question on what's it like being a Māori athlete in Te Ao Hākina Kina, I think about the crosswinds that we have to face daily, what takes us off our values, what takes us off our grounding. But are we showing up with intent to live a certain way? Are we aware to what we're doing? Because it's easy to get lost and ungrounded in such a high-pressure environment. So for me, I like to leave that question with all of us in the audience. What are the crosswinds we face in Te Ao Hākina Kina, or as Māori out there? And coming off of such a great week of mana and energy, I'm sure we can find the right things that keep us grounded moving forward. For me, what keeps me grounded is obviously my whānau, my cultural identity when I move into these spaces, and it helps me move with mana. And most of all, it's just my community, as you can see out here. I was welcomed home to a bit of a parade, and I was quite reluctant to turn up in this fashion. One of my aunties texted and said, "Oh, how do you feel about having a parade tonight?" And I was like, "Oh, can we just have dinner and call it a night?" But it wasn't about me at the end of the day. It was for our community, it's for our hapu, our iwi and our whānau, and te iwi Māori. So if it's that way, then I'll love to keep doing this for our people. And this is my kōrero for you. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Ko te reo, te take.